Hello, everyone. This is Women Talk Construction, and I am here with my co host, Christy Powell, and then some amazing other women that we are so excited to introduce you to. And I think you've heard most of their voices on our podcast, except for one. There'll be a new one, but she is going to be awesome too. So, and by the way, we are having this conversation today because on our first ever live, we had one of our followers actually ask us, why are 39% of females leaving faster than our male counterparts in construction? So we have some fabulous guests here to answer that question. Right, Christy?
Yes, yes. And Michelle, even though she hasn't been on our podcast yet, she's going to be on in March, I think, right? Yeah.
Yay!
Yes, yes. So we're excited to hear from her on
Good
the podcast as
times.
well. Well, I hope you all know that the reason we brought these three on with us today is because we admire them, we adore them. They are making big changes in our industry. They have experienced what it's like to be in the field. They have experienced what it's like to be a leader, and they have some great wisdom to share. And they've always shared it with me. I've been very fortunate to know these ladies, but we really wanted you to hear the wisdom that comes from these ladies in our industry to make your life a little easier and better, I hope. So let's start right off with our first discussion topic, and this is for Alex. So it's really around gender bias and stereotyping in the construction industry. We notice and we know that this is a challenge for our industry. Tell us a little bit about what solutions that we could have, Alex, that will make that better for our industry.
Yeah, I think some of the most important pieces are around education, right? If we educate our workforce on what implicit biases are and equip them with the tools to challenge and overcome those in their workplace, it's going to be a more inclusive workplace, right? I think it's also important to educate and equip everybody with the tools and skills required to succeed in their profession, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. And Libby, I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, similar to Alex's point, I actually think, when we're dealing with bias in the workplace, that starts at the leadership. And so, I don't know, anybody who comes into a company is looking to see how the leader is leading from the top down, and the way that the cultures of the company, or even when it comes to education, those training programs have, even the leaders sometimes themselves have to be trained on it to say what are the biases that are happening within their company and at the field. And if they recognize it, then I think they're able to put the programs into place, or their HR management should take an active effort into putting those programs into place, so that way women aren't experiencing gender biases, sexual harassment. I know that a lot of trainings have happened on that, but making the environment inclusive and also very comfortable for women. So probably if you're looking and seeing a female leave your company, and it's due to sexual harassment or it's due to not feeling comfortable, questions to make them feel comfortable, you're doing something wrong. So as a leader, you have to be very open-minded about how your employees are receiving everyone in the company. And it may not just even be females. The gender bias or discrimination could be with anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. What great points. Thanks, Alex and Libby. And Libby, while we've got you, we're going to move on to another one of the challenges that we're seeing in the industry, and it's lack of representation and role models. How do we do a better job of seeing more of the representation and role models in our industry?
Well, I'm very fortunate to live in the DC area, and I surround myself with a lot of female organizations, specifically women in construction organizations. And to me, I feel like there's females everywhere all around us, and role models and mentors if I look all around me. And I'm hoping that that progress sort of translates into other states and into other regions of our country, because even though we're only 14%, they might be more pocketed in the bigger cities or in the bigger metropolitan areas. But I would encourage everybody to find some kind of organization, whether they can virtually connect or whether they can be in person, for those leadership. And if you see somebody that you want to be like, or if you see somebody who really emulates how you want to have your career, ask them to be your mentor, if you feel so comfortable. We had a panel right on mentorship. And so some of those things are educating even our female employees, or educating our female colleagues to seek out other sources of inspiration for mentorship. And sponsorship. We talk about that a lot too as well. Not just mentoring, but also sponsoring.
They're different, right? Mentoring and sponsorship are different. So for our audience that may not understand what that means, maybe you're in the field working, we really want to be able to help you the most, because we know that you're not getting the kind of mentorships maybe that you need, or you're not seeing a lot of people that look like you on the job site. So will you explain, Libby, what the difference between mentorship and sponsorship is for those folks?
Yes, and actually I think Andrea Jensen from the Ambition Theory, she's probably the first one who's put a program around it. But mentorship kind of means somebody who just sort of talks to you, can guide you in certain things, or we even talked about silent mentors. It's somebody who puts themselves out there, and you may not know them, you may not talk to them, but you do look up to them and want to emulate their behavior or their leadership or their or how they conduct themselves. And those are called silent mentors. But to sponsor somebody, it means that I am actually going to bat for somebody else. I'm putting my name, I'm putting in their name for this leadership position, or I'm putting their name in to receive this promotion, or get this job, or be the project manager, or be the superintendent and get that extra step. And I am the one advocating for that person to actually do it. So when they succeed, it's my success. And if they fail, that also would be my failure as well. But it's really somebody taking that on for you that will put their name on the line for you. And so that's the difference between sponsorship and mentorship.
Thank you so much for clarifying that. I mean, honestly, it was one of the things that I had to have explained to me at some point. So it isn't something that you talk about every day, especially if you're in the field, right? I think all of us have been in the field, and we felt that sense of being alone on an island. Angela, this is a perfect topic for you too. I would love to hear your thoughts on just the lack of representation and role models, but also on the mentorship and sponsorship, because you are a very big advocate for being a mentor. And I love that you do
was thinking, Christy, we really are sponsors, actually, based on that.
Good point. Yeah.
So I want to tackle this question as how I deal with it. Or we deal with it, because you are involved with a lot of the things that I'm doing too now. Is we go into the school systems, a friend and I have created this women construction forum where we all meet, and it's various ages and various levels of females, a lot of them on the job site, and we're all just there. It's a very informal meeting once a month, and we just all get together, and it's so awesome to see these women share challenges, opportunities, help each other. Other ways that we do it is, whenever we're out in public, like or a career fair or something, it's our faces that they see. That's what people need to see, is a different face at those career fairs, at those career centers. We go and speak to the female students. And to be honest, I remember talking to a career center person before we ever even did a speech to some 11th, 12th graders. And they were like, you're really not going to get much out of them. They're really not going to ask any questions. They're not going to do anything. They're going to be bored. You got to give them a task. We didn't do any of that. And they asked questions for like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And I mean, they were really cool questions too. They were like, what do I need to do if I go this direction and I go to college? Should I take this engineering class my first year? Or, where do I need to how do I need to go about getting an internship? There are some really cool things that you'll find out if you just take the time. And I think what we need to see is companies allowing women and minorities to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a quick comment.
To be involved, right? When you say
Yes.
to do this, I'm just clarifying. they really want to go to these women's groups where they get fed and they get poured into. And sometimes they don't get the opportunity. And I just want to clarify that for the audience that's what that means. These women need to be able to be with their peers and be able to ask the complicated questions to people who've been in the industry for a long time, or have faced challenges that they would prefer that the young ladies don't have to face, right? Because we've been through it and we want to help them. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, no. I wanted to make sure everyone knows to ask us questions.
Yes.
Please, everyone, if you're listening, you can chime in at any time and ask us a question, any one of us, and we can answer it for you.
Absolutely.
But yeah.
And that's what we're here for today. We know that some of you in the field, it's so hard, like raising a family and being at work and being in the field and not seeing anybody that looks like you. And we want you to know at Women Talk Construction, one of our heart's desires is for you to feel like you're not alone anymore. And and as we keep continuing to do these webinars, we also want you to know we want to answer your questions. We want to talk about things that are going to help you better in the field, or, just reach out to us at any time. And we have, it's not just Angela and I, we have a whole team of wonderful women that literally feel the same way
on our
that we
forum,
do.
right?
Yes, everywhere.
Yeah.
And so it may not be us answering your question, but there's a lot of women that feel the same way we do, and we want to make things better. So next topic. Oh, wait a minute. Yep, we got that in. Okay, I gotta make sure I don't miss anything. So one of the challenges there is limited career advancement opportunities. And that question is for Angela. And I'm going to chime in with Angela after she gets finished.
You want to go first? Oh,
no, you go right ahead.
By the way, Rona Nix, I think I'm pronouncing that right. She is
Oh,
the
you're
one
welcome.
that mentioned it to us, I think, actually, to do this and ask us.
Awesome. Thank you, Rona.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so limited career advancement opportunities. Yes, that's a thing. And, I think, well, it's great I think the way you go about this too, you can help everyone, right? Women and men, is you develop and implement, formal career development programs where they learn the skills that they need to learn. They get that training that they need, they get the training and with a mentor maybe. Before that 37-year career mentor leaves the industry. They get that support in advance before they say, I'm tired of this industry. I don't want to be here anymore. I think that's key. And of course, we've talked about mentorship and sponsorship. I know for me, I have one mentor. Well, I'm going to call her a sponsor now, Raquel. And I mean, I'm always putting her in for an award, lifting her up, asking her how I can help her in any way, introducing her to people. But I've been so excited to watch her grow. And now she's been doing this for everyone else, and she's not even 30 yet. And I know, and she's doing this for everyone else and introducing and meeting lots of people. And so that's what we want to see, right, Christy?
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Alex, I don't know if she wants everybody to know her age, but just being that example is so important. And as us being a sponsor or a mentor or whatever that is, us building those girls or ladies up is the most important thing we can do, right? Instead of tearing them down. A lot of times we're on a job site and we see other women there, and instead of, collaborating, we choose to say things that we shouldn't say, or, we get jealous, whatever that happens to be. Hypersensitivity is the big word right now. Michelle and I talked about it not too long ago, and it's so true. It resonates with every single challenge there is on a job, no matter what gender you are or what race you are. That hypersensitivity, if you are not checking yourself, you're going to respond emotionally in a way that you may not even be proud of, right? Later, that's going to cause some kind of a conflict at the end. But one of the things I really did want to mention about opportunities is take them, right? Ask for them. I'm just going to be honest. When I took this role with the 84 Lumber Company, I was scared. I really was scared. I'd been in the field for 26 years and didn't know if I could do it right. And that's how I met Angela. I knew she was in BD, and I met her on LinkedIn, and I literally asked her, should I take the job? And she was like, why not? And I'm like, yeah, why not? So, and it was the best thing that could have ever happened, not only to me, but for my family too, because being in the field was very challenging for 26 years.
everyone that you've impacted.
Oh, you're sweet. And then, of course, I got to fulfill my passion, as Angela just said. And that's just helping other women feel comfortable in the field and, helping them get to that leadership position. So I think it's really important to speak up. I think it's really important for you to look at a job description. And if you can do 40% of it, by all means, go for it. Right?
Right.
Like most of the time, you can know 10% of it and still go for it. Why? Because you're capable and you can do anything you set your mind to. And I just want everybody that's listening to at least know that about themselves, right? You can learn, you're smart, you've been in the field, there's nothing you can't understand, and just go for it. And
that's what they say also is the biggest difference between men and women, right? I mean, men will see that they can do 5% of it and they'll apply right away or they'll push for that job right away. But what they say about women is they want to make sure they check off every single box and 100% meet the job description before they'll apply for themselves. But we should stop doing that. If you, like you said, you even know 5%, 10%, your skills or your work ethic or your interpersonal skills will probably get you to the technical skills that you may need for the job or vice versa. You can be taught anything if you have the right attitude to learn something. So yeah, put yourself out there and go for it.
Yes. Woo-hoo! Yeah, for sure. All right. So somebody just came on and said thank you, and her name just left by the time Libby. Oh, there we go. Stacy. Thank you, Stacy. She said good afternoon.
We have another.
Sally Denton says studies show women are so hesitant if they can't do 100% of a job description. It is so true, Sally. So true. But we don't have to be that way, right? That's what we're trying to encourage you about today. If you have a job that you want to go after it. If you feel like you need to learn a little bit more, start asking questions before you go after it. And ask somebody in your circle, hey, do you know about this? And learn, or Google, like, hey, we got the whole world at our fingertips. I learned about WBE by Googling for 2 full weeks. I learned more than I needed to know. And by the time I was done, I was like, gosh, I know way too much now. It's because people couldn't speak WBE really in my world. And I thought that everybody would be so educated, but it's interesting what you find out when you just go for it.
Right.
One of the other challenges that we've seen is the work-life balance. That's pretty important to all of us, right? And supporting our families. So how do we do that? What are some solutions for that, Michelle?
Well, we're a tough nut to crack as the construction industry. It's easy when people are still throwing out, oh, well, flexible work hours. And we're going to talk about those things. We have to find those family-friendly policies. But sometimes flexible work hours are impossible because you're tied to the job. But there's times where you can do co-job sharing potentially, so that one person who can come in at the top of the hour, and then you guys can swap off later in the afternoon. But you have to find your voice and ask. You have to be honest about those things. So we as an industry, we've got to find those ways to have that additional flexibility. And it's not just for women, it's for men as well. And it really comes to, if you as an individual have any other dependent that's dependent on you, we as an industry have to accept that we're not easy for that. We are not your Monday through Friday, go to the same place every day world, especially for our field ladies that are on here right now. I urge all of you that are out in the field to find that voice and go in. If you have children, go in at the beginning of every school year with that list. We get it. And walk in and say, here are all my kids' plays, recitals, practices. This is really important to me. I want to stay at your company, but I need to be able to be the best parent I can be too. And companies love that. What we don't love, right, is getting that Tuesday, hey, I need to be out Wednesday afternoon. We don't love that. But if you can find your voice and not be afraid to ask, most companies will find a way to provide some of that flexibility. And for companies that are listening, there is some low hanging fruit out there that can help with work life balance. Something as simple as look into your local community and find out what are the after school programs. Can you get that employee and their family the YMCA access? So anything that could help offset that time, because it's not just the time on the job site, it's the time traveling. Sometimes we looking right now at our retention rate of women. We're bringing women in, we're just not keeping them. And I think a lot of that has to do with have women that want to come into the industry, but then they get in and they have the logistical difficulties. And our single parents, men and women, are all struggling with this issue of, hey, they want me on a job site at 6:30 in the morning. My kid's school doesn't start till 8. How am I benefiting my family and that individual in my dependency for that hour and a half in before school or after school? So looking into those programs, those are simple. Other ones, look into having an HRA. That is such an amazing opportunity for that, taking care of work-life balance, saying we don't just have insurance, but we have another fund here for you that helps cover some of those basics. Hey, ladies, we have to buy tampons. It is a thing. HRAs can pay for those things. It sends a message of we care about your whole health. And one other one that I think is really good to look into is doing even anonymous surveys of your team and asking those tough questions. Would you rather us try to have an on-site daycare, or would you like to be compensated for that? And there's nothing wrong, ladies, that when you're negotiating for your position to bring these things up. We want to retain you. So just ask us for the support.
So Stacy said, also still apply even if it requires a degree and you don't have one. So if you are considering going for a job and it says it requires a degree, still apply. I've heard a lot about that. We work with Camber Parker a lot and the OPRO, and she's really been on top of us, just letting us know that, hey, you just need to be out there. So that's definitely important to mention, Stacy. Thank you so much for that.
Hey, Christy,
so Alex,
real quick on that. I just wanted to say on that, we tied it with this question and that limited advancement opportunities. One of the things that companies should really be looking for is making sure that, and if you're in the field, ask for those dollars to go to school because someday you're going to want to take your bags off. So go ahead and ask up front. It's okay to ask.
That's a good point. I mean, there was a point actually when I switched, I just had knee surgery, right? I was struggling with keeping up with all the things and jumping up, 2 flights of stairs during construction to get and measure an opening, right? And it was getting hard on me. I'll be honest. I hate to admit that I'm older, but I was ready after 26 years of jumping up and down on a foundation and getting up there and measuring window openings. I was ready to do something a little bit more fulfilling, I guess you'd say. So that's a really good point, is to have your future in mind, right? You're not going to want to have those bags on your hips and carrying a measure tape and jumping in and out of pickup truck all day forever. So, that's one of the things nobody ever prepared me for. And maybe 26 years ago, if somebody would have said, hey, where do you want to be in 10 years? I might have had a different plan. I mean, I'm glad that I did what I did, but I'm glad that you mentioned that, Michelle. Thank you. So I do want to hear Alex's take on this, because Alex is a different generation than I think all of the rest of us on I think Libby's probably closer to Alex, but I want to hear, Alex, what do you think the solution should be for work-life balance and family support? And I know that you probably have experienced this already because I get to be the leader in your department. But I would love the audience to hear what matters to you. I had to learn that, and I learned that from you by asking what mattered to you and what made you want to come to work every day. You're on mute.
Sorry about that. I was going to say, I think that's a big part of it. Of course, I agree with everything Michelle says. I think all of that's really important. And to your point, Christy, and to the point that Libby made earlier, it all comes from the top down, right? So if our leaders are caring about their associates on a personal level, they're going to care to make their place of work somewhere that these people want to be and is fulfilling to them and taking care of them and fits into their lifestyle and all those things, right? And I think a big part of it is being willing to be creative, have some ingenuity, right? Because there's a lot of these different solutions that don't necessarily fit into the standard business model that's probably gotten you and your organization to where you are today, right? But that doesn't mean that you can't necessarily still meet your goals, take care of your clients, do business just as well and effectively in a different way that does allow for some of these flexible options to support everybody. Men, women, child-free people all need some time to go like touch the grass, right? So I think people just need to be mindful about how they're operating on a day-to-day to make sure that they're taking into account their employees as people.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what are the things for you, Alex, that mean the most to you in a workplace? I think that the audience hearing that from your generation would be very beneficial.
I really think it is that, if I feel cared about and respected and honored as a human being where I'm working, I'm not going to want to leave, right? I think autonomy is so important, and I think a lot of organizations can kind of forget that in
Mhm.
favor of productivity or efficiency. But I think it's so important to make people feel like they have a sense of ownership in what they're doing, to be invested in it, and to make it work for them, right? If it's working for them, then you're going to be getting the best results out of them, which is going to be better for your business. And again, just respect and
Yeah.
just, if you take care of me as an employee, I'm going to take care of you as an employer.
Lance Furr, I'm not even going to try to say his last name, said Stacy Holscher's tip was excellent, and he firmly believes in that. Apply even if you don't have your bachelor's degree or a degree requirement. Thank you, Alex, so much. And I have to say that you're doing a bang up job. Like, honestly, I don't even know what I would do without you. So I appreciate you more than you know, for sure. You work really hard, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do. And the industry isn't always the easiest, but you always have a smile on your face, and you do a great job just leading our teams.
Thank you.
So our next one, I think we have time for all of us to answer, is we're talking about safety. One of the concerns when people are considering being in our industry is safety and harassment concerns. And some solutions for that are just being able to speak up yourself, right? I feel like, and I'm just going to give you my opinion here because 26 years in the field, I had to figure it out. It wasn't like anybody was telling me, or I didn't get to watch a seminar or a video or ask anyone. I didn't have a mentor. But one of the things that was really important was that I stood up for myself. And I didn't have to do that in a mean way, and I didn't have to be called bad names. I literally would say things. If somebody would say a bad word, I would say, "You mean this?" and I would smile. And then they would understand, oh, she doesn't like to hear bad words, right? And so there's really simple and effective ways to express what you really don't want to hear or you don't want to see without being offensive or rude. And I think one of the things about hypersensitivity is that we're so sensitive about these things that we're not thinking logically I mean, I can say to my counterpart next door to me, and maybe it's a female or male, it doesn't matter. If they're talking about something that I don't really want to hear and I'm in a cubicle and I can hear it all, me just popping my head around and saying, "Hey, did you know I was over here?" And sometimes just those small little things are like, "Oh, maybe we should curtail that conversation for another time." And it doesn't always work, but I feel like that was the kindest way I could let people know, where my boundaries were. And I think if we set boundaries at our workplace, in the field, or in the office, and we let people know that we're not comfortable with certain things or we are comfortable with certain things. I mean, everybody has their own threshold, right? So you might like that off-color joke, but the gal sitting next to you doesn't like that off-color joke. Just being aware of those boundaries from each of the people that you surround yourself with every day, I think is the most important thing that you can do. And it's really, just like Alex said, it's the human thing to do. So I'd love to hear what you all have to say about that as well. The safety, I'll let you guys talk more about the safety. I think Michelle probably has a lot to say about the safety part of it.
Well, yeah, on safety, there's so many things that I'm so proud of. I think back like 20 years ago when even like the safety gear wouldn't fit, and it was like, well, figure it out. And your harness didn't fit, nothing fit, and your vest. So we're moving that needle. We're going the right direction of being now not an exception, and we are just becoming part of the team, and we're starting to feel it. And I love that. Things with the total human health is where my passion is. And when we're talking about retaining people, in order for us to make sure they're healthy on the outside, they have to be healthy on the inside. And so as companies, we have to be constantly advocating for that total human health approach at the top of the ladder. But it was already said, Christy and Alex, we also have to lead our voices, and our voices have to come in. And Christy, your examples were great of just saying, hey, this doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And sharing that and being honest. There's so many of us, and I was just as bad back in the day. It was, oh, well, that's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it is our job now to say that is how it was. And so we have to be our biggest advocates and champions for the work environment we desire. And we really need to be pushing that if we see something, say something, whether it's on harassment, whether it's on safety, whether we see somebody is struggling, we need to find those ways to help them. Construction, second highest rate of suicide in all industries. We have to see stuff, we have to say stuff. And a big part of helping fix that is if we have a harassment-free environment, then our workplace becomes a safe place for our mental health. So, push for those actions in your company. Don't be afraid. And I'll say to the young ladies, because I made this mistake, you don't have to overcompensate in your behavior to match other people's poor behavior. And Christy and I have talked about this. Lead with your brain. If you see something you don't like, be honest about it, find that voice. And then I'm going to give a shout out because it's so important. If you don't have Narcan on your job sites, get Narcan on your job sites. If you have teenage kids, have Narcan in their backpack, have Narcan, maybe not every school will allow that, but have Narcan available for your families. The fentanyl overdosing that is happening on job sites and around the country, it's insane. So reach out, get that training. It's free in almost every state. So ABC has a total human health resource kit available for anybody who wants it, because at the end of the day, safety needs to be open to all. And so any of the resources that we have, we share with Women Talk Construction. If you ever have issues, share them in the forums, and we'll get you the resource. So you can not only go to your company with your concern, but go to your company with the solution to fix the problem.
Very good point.
We need your help. You could be at the top of the ladder, but sometimes we need you to hold the bottom of that ladder and give us the support we need to move the needle.
Yeah, awesome. I think Libby, what do you think about the what we could do for solutions for harassment and safety?
So it's interesting. I've talked to a lot of companies, and actually, Michelle, I'm very well familiar with Total Human Health. I was actually going to give ABC a shout out with that. We've partnered with ABC to get our STEP, STEP certification, and Total Human Health I know is part of that. So we are doing our steps that we're not just worried about people's physical health, but as well as their psychological safety and their mental health as well. So us as a small company, I think I try to actively check in with each one of my employees, but what I've heard from a lot of larger companies is that they're creating affinity groups or employee resource groups, and whether it's female only or whether it's based on other factors, maybe a different race group or a diversity group, but that's where they're getting their feedback from. And again, either it comes from HR, it's going to come from your leader. These feedback forms should also maybe be anonymous to say, hey, do you feel that our work is supporting you? Have you been in a situation that has made you uncomfortable, but you have not felt comfortable to speak up? And if those forms are anonymous, maybe somebody will feel comfortable speaking up and saying where something has gone wrong. And absolutely, to Michelle's point, the see something, say something, especially on a job site and out in the field, I think is especially relevant. A lot of it is also, we call it implicit bias, but it's also maybe ignorance. I think some of our male allies, I'm going to definitely call them allies, they just don't know that the joke or that comment is perceived in a wrong way to them. They've been in the job site for 20 years. This is how they've always spoken to one another. And if somebody new comes in, a female or a male, in this case, a female comes in, they just don't realize maybe that their joke is off color.
Yeah.
While we want to maintain our boundaries, what I have found in this hypersensitive world is that we really do need a pause before we react. So I think that in some cases, if you have been overly offended or something, something is major sexual harassment, of course, should be stopped right away. But if certain things don't make you feel comfortable in the work environment, I would also encourage everybody just, sit with it for a second before you react. And then your reaction sets the tone for everything else. And instead of maybe, Christy, you mentioned earlier that you might react in a way that you're not proud of. And that's what I'm referring to. That, if you feel discriminated against, it may not be the other person's intention. I always err on the side of caution, especially if you do have a well-run company, you do have a company of people who look out for each other. I would err on the side of benefit and have the communication piece of it. I really meant no harm, or I really didn't realize this is how this was going to be perceived. It doesn't make it right, but it opens up a line of communication for the two people, a female and a male, to talk about it. But certainly I'm proud of the larger companies who have implemented the resource groups to get these questions answered and to figure out how they can do better of getting all of these voices heard within their company. I don't know where it went.
Hello?
So Lance said, I was muted. Sorry about that. Push for a seat at the table in DE&I discussions. The voices discussing how to improve the work environment should be the parties that are most affected. And I love that, Lance. And thank you for recognizing that. Stacy says, as an elder millennial, I found that companies that have HR departments that have support when you need it, when it comes to harassment, they have better solutions and protocol to deal with those issues. It feels safer. If a company doesn't have an HR department, it usually doesn't get addressed properly and things get escalated. No real accountability. Very good point, Stacy. Thank you. Cindy says, does anyone have affinity groups set up that allow women or the underrepresented groups to speak up in a safe environment so issues can be put on the table? If so, how did you go about creating that space? Can anybody speak to that?
Libby,
I can't personally speak to that, but I do know. Yes, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Okay. We haven't personally done that as a small company. I kind of do my check-ins. We're only in a company of 25 people, but I have found from Clark Construction, I know that they have created multiple departments of employee resource groups, and I can certainly find out for Cindy, how that they went about creating that one. It's probably somebody in the HR department who took a lead, or if they have a DEI director, I know that's becoming a common position in these larger companies as well. Either they bring in an outside consultant to discuss the diversity needs, or they have an in-house director of diversity, equity, and inclusion who can help set up those employee resource groups. So I think it just depends on how large your company is, how many people you would have, and does it make sense to have an outside consultant to help with this, or hiring somebody actually for your company to create this group for you.
I think it could also be more employee led. I think it could
Uh,
also speaking with somebody at a conference recently who told me that they had an all women resource group at their organization, and it got started because all the women just started going to happy hour regularly, and that eventually like grew into an official group through the organization, but it had nothing to do with the leaders putting it together. The women decided that was something they need and made it happen for themselves.
That's a really great point. If we do want help, we can also create our own help, right? Which is what Angela and Rachel did, and I got to be involved in Women Construction Forum. Cindy also says SPHR, that would be great. We're a mid-size, mid-small size, and I'd really love to get some insight. Please share the info. So Cindy, we will try to figure out how to get you some info on that. And I think Michelle had something that she wanted to add too about this particular topic.
Well, Kathy just popped up on the screen, which I love.
Oh, she did.
Yeah. Greater Michigan has a great program called Logic. So I'm like, it's perfect. Thanks for queuing it up, Kathy. But
yes,
if your company doesn't have it, you can also work with your local ABC chapters, your NAWIC chapters, create a group if those don't exist in your community, and find that forum. Utilizing too, again, it's always great when we can be together.
Yes.
But sometimes virtually and using the forums, you can get those same answers, because sometimes it's hard, especially small to mid-sized companies, to even have a full group. I can't wait for the day that even in our small and mid-sized companies, we have enough women to create a group, but statistically we still don't. So sometimes that group may be one or two. So even reaching out in your local construction community as ladies, if you're on a job site and you meet 2 or 3 other women from, a subcontractor or a supplier or your GC, walk up and say hello. Reach out your hand and say, I'd like to get to know you. Because maybe you don't work at the same company, but you're working on the same job and you're all going through a lot of the same things. And that's a great way to start having that synergy and getting those good ideas at a very localized level.
Yeah. And once again, finding your voice and asking, right? I was very proud when I was in the field, and asking somebody to mentor me was probably not in my mindset. And, but I wish it would have been. I could have found somebody if I would have looked hard enough, and it would have made the difference. Would have made a big difference. Al says, standing up for yourself is huge. Like Christy said, setting boundaries, huge, but it's not all on you ladies. It's on us as well, meaning men. I was lucky to have a mentor who had a zero tolerance attitude against treating women or anyone the wrong way. We were for empowering everyone, not being afraid of losing your position, and we fired people who acted against our zero tolerance style. It always helps having someone stand up for you. I've seen this help women and men alike. Thank you, Al, for that. You are a champion for women. We can't even call you a sponsor or a mentor. You are a champion for women, and we appreciate you. Thanks for that. I think Angela wanted to share some things too about that. Like what are your thoughts on what we've been talking about, Angela?
Well, I echo what everyone said. I mean, everything everyone said is wonderful, and I think I was lucky enough, and we've talked about this on the podcast too, that I didn't really have to experience a lot of what I hear when I go out there and talk to other females. So, but I mean, I agree with everything that Michelle said, Libby and Alex, finding that. And even in Al, I mean, all of these things are so wonderful. I mean, that's what we want to get feedback, right, Christy? From our audience and from others, because there's a wealth of knowledge out there. It's not just you and me.
No,
everyone else. I know. Yeah. So, I don't know. That's what I would say. This was a tip. And I mean, I guess this kind of is around that same Or, because, the first thing I heard was, women get kind of offended by being called certain names because people don't know their name. But remember when one of our guests said, well, they put their name big and bold on their hard hats.
Yes.
Brilliant.
That was so hard, right?
Brilliant.
If you want to be called by your name, put your name on your hard hat.
Big and bold, your name. So, that's just a one little simple thing. And then, Michelle, when you go up and introduce yourself, you might know, hello, Angela. It's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
But that's I still want to hear from, we have another one.
Yeah. I'll let you read this one, Angela.
From Natalie. Wow. Thank you so much for speaking about this. This is literally bringing me to tears. This is why we do this.
Yes, it is.
Knowing other females are championing us. And you are too, Natalie, by just saying this.
Yes.
I had to leave my previous company because they were so degrading to me as a female and our other coworkers. I know that's hard to watch. I tried to stand up and set boundaries, but shamed again. Open to new jobs if any company is hiring a design engineer who is also promotes women. But by the way, Natalie, go to our women's the Breaking Barrier Forum.com, and we do have a job site there too where you can put up your resume if you like. But people will definitely see this. And you can reach out. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and two, I want to make a point really quickly, and I may have said this earlier, but if you are not getting what you need, leave. Right? You can look for another job. Obviously, we have bills to pay, right? But you're not going to get everything you want at any job. I can tell you that. I've worked at probably 17 jobs since I was 13 years old. I didn't get what I wanted at any of them, and some of them were amazing. And when I switched jobs, sometimes the grass wasn't greener on the other side when I got there. So I just want to challenge you to figure out what it is that you need and what your values and what lines up with you. And once you know what that is, when you go in to talk to somebody about a job, you're going to be clear in what you want, and you won't accept just what they're about to give you, right? And ask about how many women work here? What is your policies? How do you handle harassment in your company? Ask those questions instead of, back in the day when I applied for jobs, we didn't have that opportunity. But today people are listening to you. They want you to work for them. So tell them what you want. Set those expectations from the very beginning. And if it was your dream job and they didn't answer all your questions the way you wanted them to ask, then it's up to you to decide, right? You need to do some self-reflecting. Do I really want this job for a year so it looks good on my resume and I'm just going to suck it up and live with whatever it is that they have going on there? Or am I just going to hold out for a little while longer and find something that aligns with my values? And I think that we've lost that over time, just because there were so many people who needed work, and now it's the opposite. Now we have the opportunity to negotiate what we want at work, but still know that you're not going to get every single thing that you want. I hope you do, like I really do, but I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it's really important that, we don't stay and cry about it. I've done that before. I can be the first one to tell you I've done that. I've stayed because I thought I had to, and I whined and I drove my family crazy, and I had the ability to walk away at any time and find another job. So don't get yourself set in such a rut that you don't see the forest for the trees. I'm sure Libby and Alex for sure could probably speak to that a little bit too. What do you think, Alex?
I actually wanted to circle back really quickly. I know that we've all kind of touched on this topic a little bit, but to Al's point and to Natalie's comment, I just wanted to highlight again how important it is to use your voice when you're not in the middle of the situation, right?
Yes.
Like communication dynamics are challenging and complicated. Workplace dynamics are challenging and complicated. And a lot of times if there's some type of inappropriate behavior when the person who's on the receiving end makes a comment or can go to stand up for themselves in the midst of all these complicated and challenging dynamics, sometimes that can switch the focus of the interaction and make it more challenging to have a positive outcome, to create any good change, anything like that, right? But if somebody, a bystander, instead of the person on the receiving end, is willing to use their voice and just call out what's happening in whatever respectful, appropriate, professional way they know how, it can save everybody involved a lot of grief, and is going to make the situation a lot easier to come to for it to maybe have a positive outcome and maybe be a teachable moment, or create change in those dynamics.
Yeah, for sure. Perspectives is, if we don't understand this perspective of everybody that is around us, we can't communicate well, right? So it's really important for us to at least have empathy enough to understand where everybody's coming from, especially when you're talking about a challenging conversation, like you said, Alex.
I love what Alex just said, by the way.
I do too. Look, nobody wants anybody to leave a job, right? Tiffany said, absolutely, Alex, allyship is important in this space. It so is. And I'd love to see more women being allies for each other. So the women on this call right now, we are 100% for helping support other women, even beyond ourselves. And I think if we start changing our mindset in the field all the way up to management, to where we are lending a hand all the time, we're going to see our industry change, because then we're all going to be unified, right? Instead of, she's doing that, I wanted to do that job. Let's get that cattiness out and let's lift a hand every time, because it's always going to be beneficial for you and for the company too. So, we've got these great companies that we work for. They can't possibly know everything that happens everywhere. And it's kind of our job as being an emotional, intelligent human being to see things and be able to diffuse a situation, like what Alex was saying, and cause a positive outcome in every situation. It doesn't have to be negative. There doesn't have to be HR involved. We can be emotionally intelligent humans and use our voice. Stacy said, Christy, so many great points. Back then, I definitely felt stuck and stayed for the reasons you stated. It also didn't look good to leave a job on a resume after a number of years, but nowadays we have more leverage, support, and options. Don't stay if you're being mistreated. Awesome. I'm glad that helps, Stacy. Libby, absolutely. I want to hear your comments too.
So all of this, it brings to light some studies that actually have come out that say women drive higher revenues, in particular diversity drive higher revenues. If I was the owner of a company or leader of any company, I would think to myself, well, how am I going to also help my bottom line? It is so well worth it for me to keep the women who want to be here. And in your hiring process, if you already have a woman that's in place, I would highly encourage you using that woman in your hiring process to bring on more women, because the woman that you're interviewing or the woman who comes in for the job, she will automatically feel 100% more comfortable that there's another female at the company, that there's somebody else she can turn to if there's help that she's needed. And hopefully this female will become an advocate for her. But it's also not just females. My friends in women in construction, some of them who have led mega projects, I think 100% of them said their mentor was a male. So it goes back to Alistair's point of, yes, male allyship is truly, truly important. We're working in an industry where the men are honestly the ones at the top. So we need them to be our allies and champion for us, maybe even more so than women, because we need them to bring the women who then will bring other women into the industry. So I challenge all the big companies out there, get the women into your leadership position, show all the females in the field, hey, there's only 14% of you. I don't want 39% of you to leave. And especially if you see a good worker, you see somebody with a good work ethic, you've got to do everything in your power to keep that person. It is so much harder finding another person rather than, rather than maybe amending just small situations that are just due to communication or speaking up or having a forum for them to speak with or joining these network organizations. We've helped our marketing business person who's gone out and met so many wonderful females in the industry. I know Stacy, who has commented so many times on this, simply by going to networking events within our industry. And it's so helpful to have industry friends. They support you. They give you job opportunities that you wouldn't otherwise have. They can listen to you, help guide you if you are being, first of all, no company should have, any sort of sexual harassment. And, there should be a zero tolerance policy. Yeah. But just getting to know the other females in your industry that are not just in your company is absolutely key. ABC Metro membership is a huge part of that. Huge part of that.
I love that. Well, and we are getting close to closing up. So I kind of want to close up with, wait a minute. We've got a LinkedIn user. Sometimes the men are not used to having women in their work environments and they don't know how to handle it. But with empathy and communication, women can help create the environment to flourish unless there is mistreatment. Absolutely. 100%. I am with you there. I think that is the most important thing. It takes both of us, right? We both have to learn each other's perspectives so that we can find that common ground and work together well. Collaboration, culture of collaboration is my favorite thing to say now. Because once we create that culture, everybody wants to get involved and they want to work on the project and they want to be productive and they want to provide the best results. Will this recording be available after? I had trouble getting into the webinar and missed the first 15 minutes. Cindy, yes. Actually, it's going to live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook forever, as long as anybody wants to watch it. And that's why we opted for this option, so that you all could go back, especially those that are in the field, can go listen to it whenever they have time, whether it's after they picked up the kids after school, whether it's just downtime, washing dishes, whatever. We wanted to make sure this was available. So Cindy, thanks for asking that. So I'm just going to close this off with, first of all, thank you all, you women, Michelle, Libby, Alex, Angela, just for taking the time and being with us today. We must create an inclusive work environment that fosters respect, equality, and opportunities for growth. It's imperative that we address the underlying reasons behind the exodus and take decisive action. And I think that our conversation today really helped people on both sides of the spectrum, big business, small business, in the field, out of the field. I think our conversations really hopefully helped everyone that was listening today just understand how to do that better and without making it a hard process, right? We gave them some really simple, I hope we gave you some really simple tips and things to consider that maybe you weren't thinking about before, that's going to make your life better and easier, and you'll want to stay in the most exciting industry in the world. Thank you all for being on today. We really appreciate you, and we can't wait for the next one.